Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ari, and today we're going to have some more stories about our toxic life. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video, if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now without further ado, let's go. Today's first story. In this story, after 13 years together, OP faces heartbreak as his girlfriend develops feelings for another man while struggling with job loss and low self-esteem. Despite his support, she insists on maintaining a friendship with the new guy. Feeling betrayed and devastated, he plans to move out. In the aftermath, he reflects on their relationship and learns valuable lessons for the future. Now let's get into the story. My girlfriend, 34 female, and I, 35 male, have been together for a long time. 13 years to be exact. She and I agreed to hold off on marriage until we were financially stable with stable careers. 13 years and that didn't quite happen, so we agreed to remain unmarried. During the past year, my girlfriend lost her job as an office manager, which I got for her, and then as a phlebotomist. She was let go after 2 weeks on the job. The firings and also her inability to get a steady job wreaked havoc on her self-confidence. Her self-confidence wasn't that high to begin with, but after the firings, it took a nosedive. I was there for her as best as I could. I told her that it was only temporary, that those places weren't the right fit for her, and listened to her when she voiced her frustrations. I helped with the resume, suggested a job placement program, etc. For the last 3 months or so, she has been in contact with a guy, a college student who asked for her number and she willingly gave it. He texted her and they met up a few times. As far as I know, they are continuing to meet. She didn't hide any of this from me. She said he was simply a friend, but later on she said that she had developed romantic feelings for the guy. But she also said she didn't want to lose me and that she simply was continuing to meet with him as a friend and that nothing physical happened. She said she was just confused. I felt devastated. I'm feeling devastated. I went through all of that denial, grief, anger, bargaining, and acceptance of emotions. Trust is gone. The bond has been broken. What gets me so pissed is the fact that she thinks she's continuing to see the guy as a friend, and as long as nothing physical happens, then it's okay. It's not okay. She's sharing her emotions, hopes, dreams, and life with this guy while having me as a boyfriend. That's not how any of this works. Friends don't go out to dinner and have drinks. That's dating, and it gets better. She said that he's graduating in May and going back to his home country, Japan. She also has another guy friend whom she frequently meets up with and texts. Right now she's hanging out with one of her 2 friends and said she'll be back in the morning. I'm moving out. I don't want any part of this BS. I just need to vent and get this out there instead of holding it in and letting it eat me up inside. Due to my housing situation, my brother offered me a room in his home, but the place is not ready. I have to stay here with her until the middle of January. I'm so over this, but it still hurts like hell. How could someone do this to me? I'm not perfect, but I've supported her as best as I can financially and emotionally. I've paid for most of the rent for most of the time we've lived together. I've given her money when she was jobless. I know what I will do, but I don't know what to do in the meantime. It sucks so much. I can't sleep. I've lost some weight and just don't know what to do. Update. Thank you everyone for your sound advice and kind words. She came back early this morning and we had a huge row. As predicted, the guy kissed her and according to her, she didn't kiss him back, but she didn't leave his place either. Horse manure, but whatever. I asked her why she didn't go home, and her excuse was that Uber was expensive, lol. She said that if it made me feel better, she would only see him during the daytime and explicitly tell him that it was only a friendship. Sure, but a bit of good news. My brother said I can move in within 2 weeks. I just need to find a day when she's working or out of the place to move. I'm a minimalist, so there's not a lot of stuff. I definitely agree that leaving is the best choice for you. Not so sure about her, but she definitely seems happy enough. In terms of coping, please try your best to distract yourself in any way possible. To take your mind off events, start a new hobby, or hang out with some friends. Just occupy yourself and your free time, and try to spend as much time away from her and speaking to her as possible. If you can detach yourself from conversations with her, she might realize her mistakes and clear up her act. But even if she does, you should still leave. You deserve better. Don't focus on the time invested in your relationship. Live, learn, grow. Take some time to reflect on things for a good while and work on yourself. And eventually, the right woman will come along. Now for today's final story. I really hate my ex. I don't ever want to see her or be with her, but it hurts so much knowing she chose someone else over me 3 years together. We had amazing memories. I was literally the happiest I was in life when I was with her. Every day from our Walmart and Target runs to living with each other, playing video games together, and also having the best vacations, including our first time at Disney World. I still to this day don't know why she cheated. She said she didn't, but the proof and all was there. It's been 4 months, and I've been a lot better mentally and getting more fit. I can't believe after getting a new job, she instantly fell in love with someone else. I didn't know she was doing things behind my back with him. Reading the messages between them when I found out hurt me. She would tell me how she wasn't happy, that I was annoying, and she was depressed. She really seemed fine to me. I took her out to events and dates just a few weeks before D-Day, and she rested her head on my shoulder while we enjoyed our time together. After finding out and telling her to get out, she told me things about why she did what she did. She said she needed time to love herself, and she was depressed. I wasn't loving her so much. I didn't pay enough attention to her problems, and the AP did. He would message her saying he promised never to hurt her and call her his queen. After being together for 3 years, the natural honeymoon stage is over, and that's when we become adults and think about life and our future. Now, yes, I do regret not showing her enough love and paying attention to her problems. I felt horrible after she told me all this. It hurt me when she said she knew I would have cheated if I could, that I'm a narcissist. While I sat there crying and hurt, while she had no emotion, she looked annoyed. When I would mention breaking up with her when we argued, she would hold pills and threaten to kill herself, but she was calm when I kicked her out. Months later, she tried talking to me and begged me to talk with her because she was depressed, but I ignored her because I knew my worth. Now, after getting herself together and being with the AP, she actually stopped reaching out to me. I'm glad she stopped, but it also confused me. It hurt seeing posts from the AP saying how she made him happy, how he promised to show her the world, to be there for her at her darkest times. It made me sit back and wonder how much I should have actually listened and read her emotions. I just get these random sad moments, and I blame myself for everything. I even admitted to everyone, even God, mistakes I had made. I hate her, but I still told everyone about the good she did for me before. I'm not a negative person and wish the best for everyone no matter what. I didn't deserve to be hurt like this, but everything happens for a reason. Like I said, I knew right from wrong, and I never treated her badly. We had our ups and downs, and I admit I said hurtful things to her, even bringing up her past, which she lied to me about at the beginning, that have to do with some type of incest. I don't want to say what exactly, but it has to do with that category, and she was willingly doing it. I definitely learned from all this. I know what to do and how to treat the next woman in my life, but I'm in no rush. It just hurts knowing she's happy with someone else, and so is he. I miss the girl I met 3 years ago, but I don't miss the cheater in her. Today's second story. In this story, OP met his wife when they were deeply in love, leading to marriage and a child. Their life seemed perfect until he discovered she was cheating with her ex-fiancé. When he died, she was devastated, but he couldn't forgive the betrayal. They divorced, with him keeping the house and custody of their child. Now let's get into the story. When I first met my wife, we were head over heels in love with each other, and both of us knew almost instantly that we were meant to be together. My wife ended up getting pregnant while we were still dating, and we figured the right thing to do would be to get married. Everything felt natural for the first 5 years of our relationship. We were happily married, and we had a child together that we both loved dearly. I had a great job, and she stayed at home and took care of our child. Before we got together, she was actually engaged to another man. From what I was told, she broke things off with him a couple of weeks before I met her. She told me it just didn't feel right and she didn't want to be with him. So she broke up with him and moved out of his house. After that, she went out to a bar with her best friend, and that's where she met me. I always thought the timing of it was perfect. I thought it was fate. Had she not broken things off with that guy, we would have never been together and I wouldn't have had the perfect life that I did. I traveled quite a bit for my job, which was never much of an issue with us. At the most, I would be gone from home for 2 or 3 days a month, and they were always weekdays. I was adamant with my employer that I wanted to be able to spend the weekends with my family so we could make memories together. The first instance that I noticed something was off was when I was on a short work trip. I had to fly into Montana for a meeting with a client, but they ended up canceling at the last minute while I was there due to a family emergency. I decided I'd take the extra time and surprise my family with a weekend trip to the beach or something. I got on the next flight home and called my wife when I arrived at the airport. She didn't answer the first couple of times that I called. That was very unlike her. She would always be by her phone, and not answering was strange. Eventually, she picked up the phone to see what was going on. She seemed annoyed that I called her. She rarely ever had that tone with me, especially when I was out of town. I asked her if everything was okay, and she kind of snapped at me to tell me that it was. I told her that I was in a new burr on my way home, and she seemed shocked. I heard a lot of shuffling around in the background, but at the time I assumed she was moving around. I never thought anything suspicious was happening. She got off the phone with me, and when I arrived home, she was very disheveled. Her cheeks were pink, but she had been running around, and she was wearing some pajama shorts and a sweater that was on inside out. I knew that being alone with the kid was sometimes exhausting, but it didn't seem like that was the issue. I asked her if everything was all right, and she told me that it was. She was just surprised to see me so early. I told her about my plan to spend the weekend by the beach, and she immediately rushed off to start packing so we could leave in the morning. She seemed relieved to get away from me. I unpacked my work stuff and went to pack some garments for the trip, and I found a black sock that I didn't think was mine. I picked it up and showed it to my wife, asking what it was. It was a suspicious thing to find. She was confused about what I was asking, swearing that the sock was mine. I'm not going to lie, she was the one who handled all of the laundry in the house. She bought a lot of my clothes and probably knew my wardrobe better than I did. I told her that I didn't think it was mine, but she was steadfast in saying that it was mine. Eventually, I gave up and I believed what she said. I figured she would know better than me about it. Several months passed, and I didn't notice anything else going on. I had completely forgotten about the sock thing by that point. One day, I came home from work early, and I found my wife in her bathtub crying. There was no water in the bath, and she was fully clothed, just hiding in the bathtub crying. I immediately rushed over to her and asked her what was going on, checking on her to make sure she was okay. She was almost nonverbal and unable to communicate what was happening to me. I was freaking out, and I rushed around the house to check on our kid to make sure they were all right. I called her mom and asked what was going on. She didn't know either. My first instinct was that somebody had died, but when I spoke to her mother, the person who would have likely elicited that reaction out of her, I started to think something else was going on. I checked our Ring camera footage to make sure nobody broke into the house, but I didn't find anything there. The only thing that was left for me to do was look at her phone and see if that was any sign of what was going on. It wasn't something I was doing to try to catch her in anything. My wife was hysterical and crying, and I needed to figure out what was going on so I could help her. She had it with her in the bathtub, and I went over to her to grab it from her hands. She put up a little bit of a fight giving it to me. I unlocked it, and the screen that it was open to was a message exchange between her and a man would call him. The messages were all very romantic in nature. They were telling each other that they loved each other, that they missed each other, and how excited they were to be together when I went away the following week. I didn't know what to do. My wife was hysterically crying in the bathtub, and I cared about her, and that was heartbreaking to see. But I had also just found out that she was cheating on me. That didn't even explain why she was crying the way that she was. Their messages didn't end with a breakup or anything like that. While I was looking at a message from her best friend, let's call her Carol, came through. I didn't read the message, but I called her right away and asked her if she knew about what was going on. I told her that I knew all about Tim, and I just needed to know why my wife was crying in the bathtub. Carol told me that Tim was my wife's ex-fiancé. They had reconnected and were seeing each other. The reason my wife was crying was because Tim had died. I felt so many different emotions at that time. It's honestly so unexplainable how I felt. I was angry and heartbroken about the affair, but I felt for my wife because I did love her, but I was so mad at her. I wanted to reach out and help her, but I also wanted to be as far away from her as I possibly could. I told Carol that she needed to come over and tend to my wife because I didn't think I could. I walked out of the bathroom and my wife yelled after me, begging for me to come back and be with her. I packed a bag for our kid so we could go stay at my parents' house for a few days. They didn't need to be around my wife while she was mourning. It would likely be pretty cheering for them. When Carol came over, I left. She tried to explain to me what was happening before I could leave, but I didn't want to listen to her either. Carol was my wife's best friend, but we were on good terms. I would joke around with Carol, and I invited her out for dinner and drinks with us all the time. I felt betrayed that she even lied to me about the affair. I explained everything to my parents when we were at their house, and they gave me some really good advice about the matter. I felt bad about my decision to walk away from her, but they told me that she already made that decision for me. Even though I knew she was mourning, I couldn't be with her. She betrayed our marriage, and the only thing left for me to do was leave her. She made her choice, and I wasn't responsible for her emotions after she hurt me. I gave her the weekend at home alone to deal with everything she had to do. When I returned the following week to gather some of my belongings, she begged for the chance to explain herself to me and work on the problems. I told her that there was no explaining that she was telling another man that she loved him and sleeping with him behind my back. However, I did find out that she actually was still engaged to her fiancé when we met. She and I had been dating for an entire month before she broke things off with him. I was supposed to just be a flame, but then he found out about me and they broke up. I don't know if she thought that was going to make the situation any better, but it certainly didn't. I knew then that she had been a liar throughout the entirety of our marriage. I told her that I was leaving her and that there was no sway in my mind on the matter. I knew that she was still very emotional from Tim's death, but that wasn't any of my concern. I started filing for divorce, and as I was doing that, so many people from my life reached out to me and tried to make me out as a villain. My wife had been telling everybody that I left her after she found out somebody close to her died. She was withholding the fact that she found out the man she was cheating on me with died. I made sure to clarify that to everybody who reached out to me, so they knew the truth. I wasn't going to let her lie about me and make everybody we knew think I was some awful man. After that, everybody saw how manipulative she could be, and from what I understand, she lost a lot of friends in our town. The only person who stuck by her was Carol, who was the only other person who knew about the affair when it was happening. We ended up getting divorced, and I kept the house and all of our assets. She moved in with her parents and comes by on the weekends to see our child.